Hi, this is Chase Utley, and this is the Phillies Show.
Hi, everybody. Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. It is Monday morning, January 6th, 2025. Guys, how are we doing? How was your weekend? You have a good weekend?
Excellent. How about you?
It was good. My weekend is continuing. Today is a snow day, so all three kids are home. All three kids are home from school. We did the math last night. My middle child, Margot, she's in kindergarten. She has now been off of school for 19 straight days. Almost 3 weeks. She's living her.
Ryan. That's very easy on Ryan. I'm sure she's handling it.
Our daughter Margot's living her best life. She just doesn't know it. She's 19 straight days. So she gets.
So on this snow day, I'm gonna dig into this. This is a book, Preserved Honor, by our good friend Ed Wade.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I ordered it on Amazon, and I'm looking forward to getting into it today. And watching the snowfall, so it should be fun.
Yeah, and Ed's got a birthday coming up at the end of this month. But my dad, and just in addition, I just wanted to mention that this is a pretty special day for my dad. A heavenly birthday for Rube Senior. Would have been 89, I believe, today, and think about him all the time. Miss him dearly, and as many of you who have lost your one or two of your parents, it's a memorable day for me, but also brings back some great memories of what he meant to us and to me and to our family.
Well, happy birthday, Senior! Remains a good man in all our hearts. So happy birthday!
What a great guy. I mean, I talked to him a few times over the years, and as always, I was like, what a good man. What a good man. So happy.
Yeah, one of my proudest moments was that having the opportunity to work with my dad, Ed Wade, as you mentioned earlier, Jim, graciously brought my dad back into the organization as a minor league instructor for many years. And while I was in the assistant GM post, he would, we would invite all of our, rovers into spring training major league camp. And so I would stay with him with my kids during the course of the spring in Clearwater. Just brings back tremendous memories during this time as we get closer and closer to pitchers and catchers, how much time we got to spend with my kids and with my girls. And those were great moments.
Yeah. That's great stuff. And Ruben, this weekend I got to see your brother, David. I was in DC for the American Baseball Coaches Association convention. I was down there with my friends from Perfect Game, so it was good to see David. And it just is amazing the dedication of baseball coaches and all coaches in sports. But I mean, just see all these baseball coaches, really of all ages, just there. The dedication to their craft and using the event as a resource and sitting in on all these conferences about coaching techniques, everything from coaching techniques to strategy to equipment to handling kids. Just amazing. And there's so many wonderful coaches out there just who love the game and give to the game. And your brother, David, is one of those guys. It was just great to see this weekend.
Yeah, my brother, I got to give a shout out. We're doing family stuff. And, for Philly, my brother's been running the Philly Bandits for a long, long time. And he's tremendously passionate about it. He's carried on my dad's sort of legacy with the Ruben Amaro Senior Foundation and so many different things that he's been involved with youth baseball. My brother's done an amazing job of trying to create opportunities for young kids, and both male and female softball. We're involved in some softball stuff too. But his dedication to youth baseball has been just amazing. And he's been doing it for many, many years. And he certainly deserves a lot of love for that, man. It's not a monetary thing, I will tell you that. It's been something that's it's a labor of love for him, and really proud of him for that.
As you should be.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim. Well, I saw on Twitter you ran into somebody down at the show, and he said we talked the safety squeeze and cheeseburgers.
Yeah, why not?
I see your reputation has preceded you.
Yes.
Yeah, I ran into a bunch of local coaches and had some great conversations with them.
Cool.
That was John from Timber Creek High School John Cates, Timber Creek High School in South Jersey. Just like I was mentioning, these guys are so dedicated to their craft, so dedicated to the kids, and so dedicated to improving themselves so they can, help the kids improve. So I have a warm spot for high school baseball coaches, youth baseball coaches as well. Like Ruben, my dad was a high school coach. So great weekend.
I'm sure John asked you some Phillies questions yesterday on all of our social media platforms. We asked for Phillies questions, and man, did we get a ton. I know I always say that, but as our audience grows, and we appreciate everybody that is subscribed to us on whatever podcast platform they listen to or YouTube or whatever. It is crazy how the number of questions keeps growing and growing and growing on all the different platforms. So we got a ton, and we're going to try to get to a few here. And let's start with the most basic question of all. And this is from rphils22 on YouTube. If this is it for the Phillies this offseason, are you guys satisfied? If this is it, are you satisfied? Ruben, are you happy?
Well, I'm happy because I think they're still one of the best top, 4 or 5 teams in all of baseball. I mean, you look at paper is paper, but when you look at the overall length and breadth of the talent of the team, you can't deny that it's probably the best rotation in baseball, although the Arizona Diamondbacks have done a good job of adding Corbin Burns to theirs. And you can talk about the LA Dodgers with their depth and how much, again, there's a lot of questions about the health of that rotation with the Dodgers. But that said, talent-wise, very, very high on the list. And obviously Seattle, who's had the last couple of years a great rotation. But I really love the Phillies rotation. I would love to create a little bit more depth in that bullpen. I know that they've made the move with Romano, but and I think that they're going to have some maturity with Kerkering. I think that they're going to be okay with Strom, and I hope that they can have Alvarado be Alvarado of a couple of years ago, and I think they're hoping that will take place. But I do still think that there's some time to make some tweaks. I know that there's continuing to try to do some things. They're not going to stop trying. I would like to add, if I could, and you talk about Kepler, or Kepler's. He was a very, very solid outfielder and a solid outfield pickup. That said, I just don't know what kind of production we'll have. So there's a little bit of a question mark still in the outfield. But if the guys like Stott and Bohm continue to develop as players, and I do think Stott's a huge key for them because he can be the type of player that's necessary to make that lineup longer, whether he's at the top of it or in the bottom of it. He's a really important piece of the puzzle. Am I satisfied? I'm never satisfied. I want the best team. I want as many great players as possible. But I think it's a really, really good team. They will compete for the World Series because of the talent that they have today. And as I said, I think they have got a great manager. I really think that Rob Thompson's pretty special. So I fully believe that they're a contending team. There's no question about it. But there's always room for improvement, as Mr. Utley used to say all the time.
Exactly.
Well, I think the word satisfy is an interesting word. Excuse me. I don't think good athletes and good teams are really ever satisfied until you have a parade. And then it starts over again and you're not satisfied for the next season because, there's always something to gain, always something to get better at, always a new achievement to reach for. But so I'm not necessarily satisfied until we see the results. And, I think what they're going to put on the field is going to give them a good chance. I like the rotation. How could you not? Love the iron of the lineup. It's about, I think they'll play in October, and then you got to go perform. You got to play good at the right time. I do think Turner and Stott are key, and I do think there's more there offensively from both guys. Turner, consistency, Stott, more production. But I just think there's probably 27 other teams out there that would take their chances with the Phillies personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes about, performing. And in terms of roster construction, because that's such a focus here in the winter, I would remind you, like we always talk, it doesn't stop until the gun goes off at the trade deadline. Good front offices, good GMs, they're constantly evaluating, constantly tweaking, constantly churning to come up with that perfect mix, or that the mix they feel good about going into October. And that doesn't have to stop until the trade deadline. And I expect Dave Dombrowski and his guys to continue to do that. But, going into camp a month from now, I like where they are. Got to stay healthy, got to play good. But a lot of teams would like to have the Phillies issues if there are issues. A lot of teams would like to have them, but satisfied, never, until they have a parade. And if they play good and things come together, this is a team capable of having said parade.
We'll be right back.
Here's my problem with grocery shopping. I don't want to waste precious time in life making the trip to the store, and I've got food allergies that make my in-person experience even more of a challenge. Those problems are now gone. Introducing Hungryroot to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including recs based on what you're looking to put in your body.
Just say, hey, Hungryroot, here's what I'm looking for, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations. And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into.
You're going to love Hungryroot as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. Get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/FT, code FT. Get after it, FT fam.
Talking about being satisfied, not satisfied. Yeah, you see the Mets sign Juan Soto. You would love for the Phillies have gone out and gotten Teoscar Hernandez and Corbett Burns, but that's not the financial reality anybody is living with right now. But here's an interesting question. This is from Andy Drew on Blue Sky. Which free agent could be an unlikely last-minute Nick Castellanos in terms of timing, not necessarily money or impact, like, Dave Dombrowski taking advantage of a broken market? Could something similar happen with a Bohm trade, with teams like Seattle and the Cubs running out of good options? So, top of my head, was it Ruben or maybe both of you guys mentioning bullpen depth? Tanner Scott's still out there, Jeff Hoffman, Kirby Yates, David Robertson, Carlos Estevez, Kenley Jansen are still out there. Maybe one of those guys is lingering on February 8th, 9th, 10th, and they go, you know what? How about a 1-year deal? Give me 1 year, $12 million, and I'll come and pitch for the Phillies and help the bullpen out. Maybe to me, that seems like a possibility for the Phillies. What about you guys? What about free agent guy? Maybe that Nick Castellanos type mid-March guy. And what about maybe Alec Bohm still possibly getting traded?
Well, I think their ears are still wide open on Alec Bohm. Depending, I think some of that could shake out or maybe become more of a topic when Bregman finds his landing spot. But then, the Arenado piece is there. So that whole third base thing, there seems to still be moving parts, but I think Bohm could be part of it. But I also am very comfortable having him back. I think all these trade discussions, if he's a competitor, it should really motivate him. He's 2 years away from free agency. He's a good, very good player. I'm no rush to move him, but I think their ears are continually open on that. So I don't know where that's going to go, but I think Kirby Yates is a good name in terms of a late pickup. It's clear they would like to keep things in the bullpen to 1 year. And as those markets come down, they might be ready to pounce on something like that, something affordable. I mean, they're at that above that fourth luxury tax threshold. So I do think they're going to exercise some caution there. But a guy like Yates, veteran, coming off a great year, you never know.
Yeah, I think the marketplace right now, I mean, those bullpen relievers, those guys that are, pretty good, and possible closers, guys who could pitch in the 8th and 9th, they're looking for those 3-year deals. And I think there's only 2-year deals out there for them. And once that starts to sort of develop, and once one of those guys signs, then you may end up getting that opportunity to go to a 1-year deal. Maybe a Hoffman comes back for a 1-year deal to try to reestablish himself as a, power arm in the bullpen. You see some, he's actually looking to possibly start, a little bit like Clay Holmes and stuff like that. That said, that reliever marketplace hasn't fully developed. And so, I think the teams are setting their budgets. I don't know that they have the kind of money and they want to put a 2 or 3 or 4-year deal together for some of those guys, because they're not real closers. They're not like the definite closer out there. And so there's some caution, because they're, a lot of those relievers are year to year. You think about guys like Real Cormier for years. 1 year he's great, next year he's not so great, that sort of thing. And so it's a very volatile piece of the puzzle. And I think that, at least some of the caution is being, you'll see some caution with the front offices as far as those bullpen pieces are concerned. And those prices might come down, which could bode well for the Fightins.
Yeah. So Alec Bohm was mentioned in that question. Here's another Alec Bohm question from 30 Ballparks on Threads. If Alec Bohm is still with the Phillies when the season starts, how do you think he'll react? Will he play with a chip on his shoulder, pout like a child, hit 70 home runs? What do you think he is going to do? I think he's going to be very motivated. I mean, like you said, Jim, 2 years remaining of team control before he hits free agency. He wants to get a big payday.
He needs to walk through that door with his equipment bag over his shoulder and a big smile on his face and a humongous invisible chip on his shoulder that he uses and don't tell anybody about it. Just use it as motivation. Have a great year to keep getting better, have 2 great years, and go make a score on the free agent market. I think with Aiden Miller percolating down there and his left side of the infield potential, either shortstop or third base, and, some of the actions of this winter relating to Alec Bohm, I think it's probably safe to say they're not going to extend him when he becomes a free agent, but that's fine. He's got a bright future. He's going to make a lot of money. Use all this as fuel. Use all this as fuel to go out and knock him dead.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Jim. And I go back to the same adage that I learned years and years ago. The second you put on a major league uniform or a professional uniform, you're not just playing for yourself or your team. You're playing for all 30 teams. Everybody's watching. And this guy is a very talented player who's improved in his game in a lot of ways. He's always been a good, solid hitter. But his power numbers are pretty good. He drives in runs very, very well. He makes contact for a big man. He's improved his defense. He can play third or first. He allows himself, some flexibility as far as, what he could become on the free agent market. So he needs to continue to improve. I agree with you about the chip on your shoulder. Go play. And who knows? Will he be playing for the Phillies 3 or 4 years down the road? Possibly. I mean, you do have some numbers coming off the books. You do have JT coming off the books. You do have Schwarber coming off the books at some point after next year, or after this season. And so who knows what the finances are going to be. But, hey, the thought process has to be, I'm going to show this world what kind of player I am. And hopefully, just much like you'll see in Ranger Suarez this year, you're playing for big dough, man. This is like stupid money they're throwing out there right now, and he's playing for it. And I think that's the way he's got to handle it.
2 Scott Boras guys right there. Ruben, tell me behind the scenes, do you have is the front office, is the PR staff having a conversation with Alec Bohm before that first scrum in front of his locker saying, hey, do we want to talk about what we want to say here? Or is he an adult? And do you worry about offending him by saying, now listen, don't tell them that you're upset that we were talking about trading you this offseason? You might say, but you were, so go screw yourself. How does that, what do you think might happen behind the scenes there? So the right tone is set on the first day of spring training.
Well, I think Kevin Gregg did a superb job of the last time he kind of got into this issue when he made those comments about, I really hate this effing place. And I think that they hit him right away. And the result of that was so positive. You almost have to believe that Alec would maybe seek some advice from him again. And he doesn't necessarily have to put words in his mouth. He just has to I think it's just important for the PR people, and I'm sure he will because Kevin's a professional, to make him aware, hey, you're going to get pounded with a lot of questions about, your trade, business, the fact that you're out there on the trade market, and, he's just going to have to deal with it. I mean, this is part of the maturity and the part of the process that he's going to have to go through. I mean, he's got to become a mature player and handle it well and just move on. I think you just say, if I'm Alec Bohm, I go, hey, listen, I get it. It's a business. It's part of the game. But I'm here to try to help the Phillies win and do the best I possibly can. And it's time to go play baseball. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't know that he'll do that, but I think it's really as simple as that.
He'll do that. He'll also receive counsel from Scott Boras's team. I mean, they're good at that stuff because they want to present him in the best light possible. And I think it behooves him to come in with a real good attitude, positive. It's part of the game, ready to move on, ready to have a great year. I don't know that the Phillies would initiate counsel, but if he asked for it, I'm sure he'd get it and get good counsel. But I also think he's 28 years old. He's been around a little bit. He's been around pros in that clubhouse. He should, at this age, know what to say. He should know what lies in the future, the potential earnings, potential achievement on the diamond. So it's about him coming in with just a real positive outlook, a real team first outlook, looking to do good things for our team and get us to where we want to go and having a great year. And in so many cases the mind leads the body. He needs to come in with a good, healthy mindset, and that would be a real good first step to achievement, I believe.
A good joke or two, and maybe to open up that session in front of his locker would ease any, perceived tensions or whatever. You make light of it. You poke fun at yourself. You poke fun at the situation. That would kind of.
And they've already started it with Topper reaching out to him and saying, it's not us. People want you, whether or not where the where the actual truth in that is. But whenever you're part of trade rumors, I think you do have to look at it as. It's good to be wanted in other cities. The more teams that want you, the better. And so that's the way I think he needs to take it head on day one and, spit in his glove and pound the pocket of his glove and go play third base and say, that's all I'm talking about.
Right. Do you think the Phillies will make any additions to the bench, or will they stick with Stubbs / Marchand, Sosa, Wilson, Clemens, etc.? That's from Sean S. on Facebook.
What do you think?
I think they're done. I mean, knowing what their salary situation is or their payroll situation is, I do think that they're done making additions to the bench. Now, again, you could maybe get somebody, maybe Mark Canha comes out on a 1-year deal, a really super, super affordable 1-year deal, somebody like a right-handed bat off the bench that could maybe give you a little bit more protection in the outfield. There's another question on here. Somebody actually mentioned Jay Sequella on Blue Sky said, am I crazy? Would it make any sense to bring back Austin Hayes? So crazier things have happened, I suppose. But right now, when you look at the bench, you have Stubbs and Marchand as the backup catcher. Marchand is out of options. So we've all kind of said that we think he's going to be the backup catcher to open the season. You have Edmundo Sosa, who's out of options, and he's your infield guy to move around. You have Weston Wilson, who I think they probably need as a right-handed bat that can play left field. He does have options, so you want to have some roster flexibility. And then that last spot, you have Cody Clemens, you have Buddy Kennedy, you have Cal Stevenson. All three of those guys are out of options, so maybe one of them makes the team. One of them would make the team if they don't make any additions, but I tend to think they might just go internal. I think Dave Dombrowski said something similar that right now they plan to go internal with what they have. But again, like we've just said earlier at the top of the show, you never know what can happen over the next several weeks. Maybe somebody like we'd be freaking nuts not to pay this guy $2.5 million to come play for us. I mean, this is a steal, and we're trying to win a World Series, and we can get depth.
How many times have we seen it? You show up in Clearwater first couple days of camp, and some guy walks through the door that you weren't expecting to see on a minor league deal. Who lingered out there, and they bring him in, and what it does is it gives him a platform to show what he can do. Maybe he shows enough to make your team. Maybe he pushes the existing guys. But the fact that Weston Wilson has options, that makes you think, they could bring in another right. And they signed Kepler, left-handed bat.
Yeah.
Weston Wilson has options. Maybe they do bring in a right-handed bat to compete and push people a little bit.
And you know who I forgot? I forgot to mention Johan Rojas. He has options, and he could be the fifth outfielder potentially as well. So I forgot to mention Johan Rojas. It will be in play for a roster
spot. But I think right-handed bat is the key.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right-handed bat to sort of platoon with Kepler. I do feel like if that they'll probably go internally with that decision, but the Mark Cannas of the world are still sitting out there, and I like that bat a little bit. He can lengthen out the lineup and give you some decent at bats against a lefty or what have you, quality at bats. Veteran, been around a while, but I think that they really like guys like Cody Clemens. I mean, Cody Clemens, he deserves an opportunity to make this ball club because he makes the team better. I think he's has a quality at bat off the bench. He hasn't really been a liability defensively. He can play first, he can play second, he can play third, not all that well. He can play fine at first base, for instance, but not a super defender, but can hold his own water, and it gives you a quality at bat off the bench. I mean, those guys are not necessarily going to make or break this team. That's something you probably would address in July, but it is important to have some depth in case people go down.
Got a lot of lineup questions, and we'll probably really dig into the lineup in a later episode. But when will they move on from Schwarber batting leadoff? That's from Fred L on Facebook. Would you consider Alec Bohm in the leadoff spot? This is from Tom G 18 on Blue Sky. Might it take some pressure off him to be a power hitter? And this is the lineup he threw out there: Bohm, Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, Stott, and then JT, Kepler, Marsh. Any thoughts on the lineup? We've kind of touched on this a little bit.
We've talked a lot about the lineup on previous episodes. I think 1 or 2 episodes ago, we really dug in. We talked about the possibility of we all think this is the year that Rob will make a change at leadoff. I mean, because he's talked about it. Because Schwarber improved against lefties. Maybe you put him in the 4 or 5 hole where he can offer protection for Harper. Could be Stott at leadoff, could be Turner at leadoff. We've talked about Harper as a leadoff man. Rob Thompson's talked about all of the above as a leadoff man at the winter meetings. So I think we're all in agreement that this could be the year. There's going to be some experimentation in spring training. But Schwarber is just simple improvement kind of as a hitter last year. I think gives him some chance to put Schwarber in the middle of the order. And he's been very specific in mentioning that he would, Rob has, about protecting Harper with Schwarber. So I don't think you talk that way if you're not strongly considering it. As for Bohm, I just love the way he has an at bat with runners on base. I'd be a little, he's really good with runners on base. I think I'd want him more toward the middle.
I totally agree with that, Jim. And really, I think it's about the development of Bryson Stott. If Bryson Stott can really become the player that he can become, Trey Turner's shown me that he's more of a slasher. He's not going to walk. He's not running as much as aggressively. Maybe it's because he's running in front of Harper, and that's not something that is a distraction or what have you. But that said, I really believe this is the year that you may see a guy like Stott at the top of the lineup, and I think it's really about his development overall. I think he's a perfect candidate for it. He's a pretty good 2-strike hitter. He sees pitches pretty well. He can foul off pitches. He can stay in the at bats. I think he's matured. I think he's healthy now. He had the elbow issue. Hopefully he's coming into spring training in a healthy mindset. And if that's the case, I think he's sort of the ideal guy to be placed in that position.
Dan O on Facebook, who is the closer? Is it
by committee?
by committee again, right?
I think Jordan Romano is going to get some looks, but
yeah.
As I mentioned, our previous episode, we did our predictions for 2024, and we talked a lot about leadoff hitter. Ruben talked a lot about the potential of Stott being there. We talked a lot about the potential of Schwarber coming out of there, where he might go, the reasons for it. And we also talked about closer, and one of my off-the-wall predictions. I just like the ascension and the improvement, of Orion Kerkering, and I could see him earning some reps in that role. And one of my offbeat predictions was he's going to get 22 saves this year. So I still think it'll be kind of committee-ish. I think you kind of really want to take a look at Romano there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's going to be much holding back Orion Kerkering. I'm just feeling like his time is coming.
I like that prediction. That's a solid prediction, man.
That's a good call. I mean, it all depends on Orion Kerkering's command of his fastball. If he can command, and he's also starting to throw a sinker, so he's moved the baseball to the arm side a little bit. If he continues to move that sinker or that runner, that two-seamer, in on right-handers to sort of set up that nasty slider he's got, I think that's a really important part of his development is command of his fastball on the inside part of the plate, arm side to right-handers. If he can continue to improve in that area, it makes his slider even more devastating weapon. I truly believe that.
Kind of a big picture question. We'll do a couple more here. This is from Paul Martini on YouTube. Considering the improvements the Mets made, signing Soto, and the Braves returning to health, how real are the chances of one big injury keeping the Phillies out of the postseason? Do they have enough depth?
It's a big fear. It depends who that injury hits on, and you don't even want to talk about it. They've shown great resilience the last few years. They've lost Real Muto for a stretch. They've lost Harper for a stretch. They've played over those injuries.
They lost Turner for a long time last year.
Lost Turner for a long time last year. I'm a believer that in resilience and next man up, those are all nice things, but there are limits. You can't. There's certain players you cannot lose. They do have depth in the rotation, but they don't have 100 number ones. So it's about who you lose. They need to stay healthy.
Right. Big picture wise, though, where do the Phillies rank with the Mets and the Braves? Everybody looks at Juan Soto going to the Mets. Everybody talks about the Braves getting healthy, but they also lost Max Fried. Charlie Morton just signed with the Orioles. You're looking at that rotation right now. It doesn't look quite as formidable. The Mets rotation, you look at the Mets rotation, and they handled the Phillies last year in the postseason, but I like the Phillies rotation a heck of a lot more than I like the Mets rotation. And you can't discount that. Yes, they got Juan Soto. He is unbelievable. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame probably, unless something crazy happens. But the Phillies on paper, I think, go into the season as NL East favorites. If you're a Mets fan, of course. If you're a Mets fan, of course, you're saying we just handled the Phillies in the postseason easily. We're going to win the division. I get that. But on paper, if you polled most personnel people across Major League Baseball, you say who's going to win the NL East if you had to put $100 on the line, I think most people would say the Philadelphia Phillies are going to win the NL East.
Yeah, I would think so. I would agree with that because I think of their rotation. Now, it all kind of depends for me, the Atlanta Braves, as far as their health. Is Acuna going to be back? Is Strider going to be back? Strider is a huge one for them. They had the one kid that came up to the big leagues, the right-hander. I can't remember his name right now. Yeah, I mean, he was really impressive. I mean, this kid's got a chance to be at least a middle of rotation type guy. But I still, on paper, I really like the Phillies compared to the Atlanta Braves and the Mets. I think that the Mets obviously have improved with Soto, but they still need some protection in the lineup for Soto. And I don't, they've brought Manaea back, but hey, listen, their rotation is very, it's decent, but it's not great. They don't have a top of the rotation guy. It's why you see so many rumors out there about them trying to get that number one or number two. Mm-hmm. And don't sleep on Alex Anthopoulos, man, looking for another quality piece at the top of that rotation, especially depending on what Strider's situation is as far as coming back.
I would pick the Phillies to win the division right now, but I also they were a 500 team from June 11th through the final out when they were eliminated from the postseason. in Citi Field. They were like 51 and 51. And I think the difference there is obviously consistency. I'd like to see a little more pedal to the metal throughout the season. I know you can't floor it every day, but it's baseball. There is some pace involved, but there needs to be more consistency in getting the job done throughout the length of the season. And I really think more consistency from Turner on both sides of the ball, improvement from Stott is really going to help your lineup. It's really going to help your lineup. And if you get those things, I think you will see that. You have the potential to see that 6-month consistency that they lacked last year. I mean, they banked all those wins early and kind of that was, what got them into the postseason. I'd rather see real consistent 6-month performance. And if they get that from the lineup and obviously stay healthy in the rotation bullpen, I think they can take that personnel, which I think is still probably, top to bottom, the best in the division, and cash it into a division title. But you got to perform. You got to play good at the right time.
Listen, I think about pitching all the time. I mean, you think about how inconsistent they were at the second half. I mean, think about where Ranger Suarez was first half versus second half. I mean, totally different guy. One, he wasn't healthy. Two, wasn't pitching the same. And so I think that the health of the rotation is so important, and that's why Luzardo becomes such an important piece of the puzzle. Because if a guy like that goes down, if Chris Sanchez or if Suarez goes down, or even God forbid Wheeler or Nola, they have some more depth there. They don't have to necessarily rely on a guy like Taijuan Walker to step in and try to eat up real innings when they have a guy like Luzardo there.
Susan V on Facebook, what's your favorite baseball movie?
Oh,
favorite baseball movie.
A lot of them, man.
I like 8 Men Out. I've always liked.
It's a good one.
When that comes on, I kind of watched that. I like that. I mean, I'm not really big on Bull Durham because, pitching in a garter, that's just not.
That rankles you, Jim?
It rankles me, as you probably would guess, right?
Kevin Costner's made a lot of great movies. The best baseball movie I think that he's made. Now I know Field of Dreams is people are in. I love For the Love of the Game, man. I love that movie, For the Love of the Game. There's a lot of realism about somebody winding down in their career and dealing with all the personal stuff that has happened over his career. I think it's a really cool one. That resonated with me for some reason.
I actually like the story. I don't agree with everything in Moneyball. They really don't talk about they had 3 great pitchers, but I mean, I like the story in Moneyball. What's is it Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill.
I think his performance is really good.
Yeah.
But I like the story of Moneyball. I find myself watching that. I think they stretch some things here and there, but
right. Like when Billy Beane walks into the Cleveland Indians front office, walks into Mark Shapiro's office and goes, "Let's make a trade." I'm like, has that ever happened in a million years?
I've been meaning to ask Dombrowski where in that movie he says, "I want you to fill my soda machine for 2 years." Remember that? Like that sounds like crazy.
Yeah,
because guys don't drink soda. They don't have soda in big. Really, guys don't drink much soda.
So here's my take on that movie. I think it was an entertaining movie. I think a lot of the things and the reasons why the A's were so good was not because of Hatterberg. It was because they had 3 Cy Young Award candidates and 2 NL MVP candidates in Tejada and Chavez, and they had a great closer that year. And so, I mean. That's the thing that disappoints me the most. And in a lot of ways, I think it's took baseball backwards because I think the analytics piece of the game took over to the extent where now they're making rules to try to get the game back to where it used to be. That's my take on it in 15 seconds.
Definitely some liberties with the facts of everything, but that's a movie, right? Like you guys ever seen 62? with the Roger Maris movie. It was on HBO, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I always cringe when I watch that movie because they make the reporters, I mean, I guess players might disagree with this, but they make the reporters sound like the biggest bunch of a-holes ever. It's like, Roger Maris, why do you suck so much? You're the worst human being on the face of the earth. They all talk like, just absolutely being horrifically brutal to Roger Maris. I'm sure there were some unkind questions asked about the record along the way, but it was like so over the top.
Oh.
I'm going, that's
poetic
not
license and liberty.
Poetic. Yeah, exactly.
The Jackie Robinson movie was good. 42.
Yep,
really good. Really good. There's some great ones out there. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Of course, for me, if anybody's been following me on Twitter over the years, for me, it's Major League because I was an extra in Major League. They filmed that in Milwaukee at Old County Stadium where the Brewers used to play. And my dad took me and my brother down there once for an overnight shooting, like a late night shooting. We were extras in the stands. And then one other time, my dad took me down because, we're living in Milwaukee, man. Hollywood ain't rolling through Milwaukee very often. So it was a big deal when I was a kid. And that movie to me always hits home. Plus, Bob Uecker in there with some of the all-time greatest lines of any baseball movie.
Yeah, how come I never knew that? I never knew that.
You don't know I was an extra in that movie?
I didn't know that, Todd. That's news to me too. That's cool.
Yeah. So the scene where the manager tells Charlie Sheen he is not going to start in the big game against the Yankees, the bus rolls in, and then the camera pans down as the bus rolls in, and there's this kid with huge glasses. You can barely see it, but I'm holding this huge sign that says Indian Fever. And I'm holding the sign that says Indian Fever. Cool. And when we took my family went to go see the movie, like when it came out, and I lost it in the movie there. I'm like, there I am. I'm on the screen for like 1,000. Before you can say 1,000, I'm off the screen. But I saw myself because I knew what part of the movie I was in. So for me,
know that.
For me, it's Major League. Yeah.
The one time I also like The Natural a lot.
Yeah, Natural's great.
I think that's a great movie. And so Wilford Brimley is the manager, and he's got that voice.
Yeah.
I'm on a tangent, but one time I'm in the Denver airport, right? And I'm at the baggage carousel waiting for my bag to come around. And I hear this voice behind me. And I'm like, oh, my God, I know that voice. And this guy is ticked to the high heavens. He is, he's kind of griping about something. I think there's some cussing going on. He's pissed. And I'm like, that sounds like Wilford Brimley. So I turn around and it's Wilford Brimley looking like he's with his daughter or something. And he is, spitting vinegar. He's upset about something with the airline, but there's Wilford Brimley right behind me.
That's great.
There's the manager. What do they call him? Pop.
Yeah.
It's Pop, the Natural, and he's unhappy with the Denver airport, though. That's my story. When
I watched that movie as a kid, I thought he was like in his 70s, but he was like 48 when he filmed that movie. It's just funny looking at how people, over time, he looks like he's ancient, but now he's like in his late 40s when he filmed The Natural. So that's some good stuff. We had a lot more. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to everything. But we'll be back later this week.
Have another episode later this week, and
maybe we can get to a few more. A lot of great questions. So we really do appreciate everybody that sends us questions. We appreciate everybody for listening. If you like the Phillies Show, you can always get some swag with the Phillies Show T-shirt available at thephilliesshow.com. Jim and I are sporting that today. Enjoy the snow day, everybody. We'll be back.
1 month, pitchers and catchers, man. It's getting close.
Oh, yeah. It's getting really close.
More than a month.
Really close. Eagles Super Bowl run, perhaps. Until then, before the mitts start a popping, right, Jim?
Right. Mitts a popping. Smell you later, boys.
Bye, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.